Hello, everyone. Happy testimony time. This would be number 2 for the year 2026, and it's a good one because I have searched and waited for a hospice nurse, which sounds so weird to me. Like, why? Why, Shauna? Why get a hospice nurse on here? Because I am so interested in the end of life. Jess is here with me, and we are going to talk all things hospice, end of life, what her experience has been in the many years that she's been in this field. And we as Christians believe and understand that like end of life really isn't the end, right? Jess is going to figure out she's got a business page too. So she's going to try to share it into her business page too. And then we will get her introduced. But I want you just to kind of like think about, infer, make connections to what the end of life looks like in her experience, but also as a Christian and with our beliefs, what that means truly for what's happening during that end of life experience. So, with all of that said, Miss Jess, who are you? Introduce yourself, and we're going to get right into this.
Hey guys, I'm Jess. I'm already going to be emotional just because that's just who I am. Nursing was a second career for me. So I've been a nurse for about 16 years. And the last 5 years, I discovered hospice and figured out that that's kind of my calling. That's where I'm meant to be. And it's based on personal experiences I had with my own family that kind of led me there. But I kind of went through a phase where after about 10 years of nursing, I'm like, I don't even know if this is what I want to do. Like, this is my second career and I'm still not sure this is what I want to do. So once I kind of discovered hospice, that was really like, yep, this is where I'm landing. This is where I'm supposed to be. So I've been in it for about 5 years, and I'm not your traditional hospice nurse. Like, I'm not a case manager, and I'll explain that a little bit later, kind of what that means and how that's different. But so sometimes I still feel like I'm a new nurse, even though I'm like, I'm really not.
Yeah.
But people my age, they've been a nurse for a lot longer than me because it was their first, I work with people my age that have been a nurse for, close to 30 years now. And so I think I tend to kind of compare myself age-wise and go, oh, I'm still new. But I've been in it long enough. I really can't say that anymore.
No, that's awesome. That's a long time too. My sister's a nurse. She works in the NICU. I mean, it doesn't matter what nurse field you're in. You all are just rock stars. I could never do it. Never once. I mean, she's in there putting my sister's in there putting like IVs in babies' heads. And I'm like, how do you do that on a daily basis? It's crazy. And then here we have Jess. Now the last 5 years is more experiencing the end of life, which means you're caring for them, but you're not trying to save their life. It's a whole other field, which is, it's wild. And that's what we're going to get into. So I'm anxious about this. We've all probably at some point experienced something with hospice. Maybe someone, you're personally had to experience it. You have heard about it. And there's so many different aspects to it, I feel like. And that's what I want to hear from Jess today. And so you kind of explained a little bit about how you got pushed into this field, which again, I could never once do it. Never, ever. But after you experienced that, the nurse world, and you thought, I kind of want to go into this new hospice field. You said it was because of family and stuff, but can you maybe dive into that just a little bit? What pushed you more into the hospice side?
So ironically, when I became a nurse, I worked for a hospice company just doing accounting. So that director was like, you have qualities of a nurse. I really think you'd be a great hospice nurse. I'm like, oh my God, like I could never do hospice. So never say never.
Okay.
Because, here I am and loving it. So she must have seen something years ago that was like, she's going to be a hospice nurse someday. So I went to nursing school, did all the things. And then my personal experiences, were, I had grandparents grandparents on hospice and in-laws on hospice. And that was like, this is where I'm meant to be, because the nurse doesn't only focus on your loved one, they are focused on helping you. Like, how can we comfort you? How can we prepare you for what's to come? And so that aspect of nursing has kind of gone away in all other fields. You know, they don't focus on family and how can we help you. It's all about the patient. How can we fix them? How can we heal them? And maybe they don't want to be healed.
Yeah.
But they kind of ignore that aspect. Like, I recently had to sit in with kind of like a conference with a physician and the family of this patient who was 95 years old. And the doctor's coming in saying, hey, I can give you 6 months with this new treatment. And I kind of blurted before I really waited for the family. I was like, what are you doing? You know, like, he's 95 years old and you're trying to give him 6 more months of what? Misery?
That's
You know,
good.
and so then I apologized to the family because I'm like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, no, like, we are glad that you said something, because we're like appalled that he's here trying to still heal our 95-year-old dad. And I mean, the patient even then said, like, don't I have the right to die? You know, and so that is really eye-opening. Like, I'm 95. I've lived a good life. I have I have good memories. Why is it not my right to go ahead and be, die? I'm ready.
That's
So,
powerful.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I kind of felt like I spoke out of turn, because I was appalled that, what are you doing? You know?
Yes.
So, but my personal experiences are, just seeing that aspect of how the nurse responds to family. And like, my grandparents were in facilities, and both my in-laws were in facilities too. And like, the hospice nurse really spends a lot of time on educating the facilities too, like what to expect. Here's what I need you to do if I'm not here. And, just making sure the facility staff is on board and doing the things that they need to do. And I know when my grandpa was on hospice, one of the facility, because she knew I was a nurse, one of the facility nurses, like, she came and pulled me aside and she's like, he's comfortable, but his meds do. What do you want me to do? And that was meaningful to me. Because I know people think that we medicate just to medicate, and that's not true. There's still a lot of misconception about hospice. People think it truly is, when I'm on my deathbed, that's when I want hospice. And there are so many benefits that we can do for people before that time.
That is so good, Jess. And I love that you're here, because I agree. There's a lot, especially if you've never experienced it. There's a lot of questions, and you hear hospice and you think, okay, they've got 5 more days to live. That's a lot of times that's what you think. I have a relative that was put on hospice essentially, and last I heard it was anywhere from 3 weeks to a couple months. And that's like, whoa, that's a long time. And what you're saying is almost like you're kind of a counselor too. You're a nurse, you're a counselor, you're a lot of things.
Yeah. 80% of hospice nursing is psychosocial. Like, it truly is. Like, I mean, we have social workers but a lot of patients kind of decline that service after they meet with them the first time. And I don't know if it's because they think, like, social work is more like, if I want to go be placed somewhere. They don't really look at it as counseling aspect. So the nurse really does do a lot of the counseling, just because they're the ones that establish rapport with the patient. And, but it really is 80% psychosocial, because, you're not going to heal the patient. You're caring for them, like you said, but you're not there to fix them. You're there to make sure they're comfortable, make sure their needs are met, and to advocate for what they want. And sometimes that's with their family. The family's like, we need to do this or we need to do that. And it's like, is that really what they want? You need to ask them, because it's their journey. And, family is part of that journey, but it's really up to them, so.
That has to be so hard, because you hear the wife, the daughter, they're just begging, I'm sure, like, please do this for my dad, do this for my husband. But ultimately what the patient wants. My goodness, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So you've started kind of taking us on a journey, and I can only assume that every situation is quite different. But overall, can you maybe just take us on a quick journey of like your day to day or what it might look like? Just what, in your experience, what have you loved about the last 5 years?
So my experience is a little bit different than your traditional hospice nurse. So we have case managers, which are your traditional hospice nurse. And so they carry what's called a patient load, anywhere from 12 to 24 patients. And they will see anywhere from 5 to 8 patients a day.
Okay.
And so those patients are like their people, like they're adjusting meds, refilling meds, talking to the doctor, managing the family needs, like they're doing the whole gamut of things.
Okay.
I work on call. So I go where I'm needed, which means I respond to crises. I respond to a lot of deaths. I work overnight, so a lot of my calls are death calls. And I often have people say, like, how can you just deal with that all the time? But that's my niche. Like, that's where I'm meant to be.
Wow.
And I don't know how to explain it. It's very rewarding in a weird way. But I have attachment issues, which is why I can't case manage. Like, I could not take care of a patient for 6 months and then, like, I would be a basket case. It would be like my own family. So working on call, like, that's where I know I need to be, because a lot of times I'll see a patient, like, they might die, and that might be the first time I've ever met the family. Sometimes I meet them repeatedly, but it's not like I have that connection with them like the case managers do. And so I try really hard when I go to a death visit, like, we have to send out a notification email, telling people like this patient's passed away and whatever, just so they don't show up for a visit or whatever, just so they're kind of in the loop. But I try really hard in my emails to acknowledge the care that the case manager and the home health aide did for that patient, because they don't always get that closure. And I know that's sometimes difficult for them. Like, they want that closure of, I took care of this patient and now they're gone, and I didn't get to say bye, or I didn't get to be that final. So I try to acknowledge that in my notification, because I know that's a part that, like, many of them have thanked me for that, because, like, I really needed that closure.
Wow.
And so I'll put in my email, like, they were really grateful for the care you provided. They'll miss seeing you, or, anything that they've said to me about their case manager. I really try to acknowledge that, because I know that's hard. It would be difficult for me. But at a death visit, I can really read the room, to figure out, what do they need? Sometimes that's just a sense of calm. Like, just sit with them. They don't want to talk. They just want to be with their loved one for the very last minutes. Sometimes that's a shoulder to cry on. Like, I don't know what to do now. Sometimes it's getting them to talk about, like, what did mom do for a living? Mm-hmm. Did you go on family vacations? Getting them to share those memories and laughing. And, I walk into houses that, there might be 10 people there and they're having a beer. They're celebrating, and I love that. Yes. I love that, because sometimes they're very apologetic. Sorry, but Dad would want us to have a beer in his honor. Great. Do it. Like, it should be a celebration, in a sense of, they're no longer suffering. They, they aren't suffering. They're not in pain. They're with the good Lord. They're in a better place. Yes. So I like to see more of that celebration. I mean, they're still sad, obviously, sure, but I love to sit around and listen to the stories of families sharing. I like to walk around the house and look at their pictures, because when they're passed away, even the last several months of their life, they don't look like they did. So I like to see, like, what did they look like? So looking at family pictures is always part of, like, I'll just kind of discreetly kind of walk around and look for pictures. But
I love that.
So my role is just very, very different than what your normal case managers it is. So, but that's
That's
where I
wild.
like
Yeah.
my boss always calls me a sparkly unicorn because she's like, not everybody could do what you could do. Like
No.
dealing with the death all the time, dealing with crisis, which a crisis could be like the family can't get the pain under control. So they need a nurse to come to either adjust the medications, call the doctor, get different orders. Um, there's a symptom called terminal restlessness, which is like approaching the end and they're reaching, they're trying to get out of bed, which is what I call they're kind of the in between. They're
Okay.
still here, but they're kind of there in heaven too, and they don't know what to do. They want to go, but they're afraid to go. And so it's called terminal restlessness, and there's medication we can get for that. And it is really, really hard for the family to manage that. Like it takes a lot of patience, which when it's your family member and you're kind of just exhausted and sometimes at your wits end, you just don't know what to do.
Right. But yet not ready to let go. Like
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I'll go and I'll help them with, medication, trying to get them calm. But then I also start to ask questions. Is there someone they haven't seen yet? Is there something they're waiting to hear? Like, have you told them, hey, mom, it's okay to go? Have you told them I'm going to be okay? Because as a mom, that's what I'm going to worry about. So patients really need to hear that. Like, mom, I'm going to be okay. It's okay to go.
Yeah.
So.
And that's hard to say.
Yeah, it is. So.
Yeah. And I feel like it can be hard based on their age. Yes. The 90-some-year-old grandpa, like I've said goodbye to grandparents and it's like,
right.
We're going to miss you, but go.
Yep.
And then the 50-some-year-old, you're like, this isn't fair, and that's harder.
Yep. Yeah, I have a lot of those too. And those are definitely harder.
Yeah.
And I think because like those 50-year-olds now are my age.
Yeah.
And I tend to reflect on losing my own brother-in-law young and like what his wife went through, what his kids went through. And so I try like not to focus on that, but it's easier for me to understand what they're going through. Like, this is not fair. You're not supposed to, especially if they have parents in the room, like your kids are not supposed to die before you.
Amen.
So that's hard to swallow.
Amen. But, and like you're supposed to be the strong one, yes, like the nurse.
Exactly.
And my sister, she's NICU, so like she's beginning of life, but like seeing a tiny little baby suffer too is so hard. And the parents, they just gave birth to this little bundle of joy, and they like have a cry room, and she's like, I gotta stay strong in front of the parents, and then you got to go cry away. And I'm like, how on earth does your mental health do that? Because if you're crying with us right now, like just cry it out. It's all fine. Please use the comments. Please use the chat and tell us like, girl, I get you. Or we would love to see your chats Tori said, this is so hard still. Tori has experienced this. She's lost both parents at this point.
Yeah.
Again, later in life. And so that's a blessing. But it's still hard to think about it. You go back to the hospice time, and you'll never forget those moments. And it's so hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I want to get into a little bit more, Jess, now that we're all just crying here. So it's great.
Right.
Cry with us. Please use the comments and tell us maybe if you've experienced any of this too. But I think I kind of got on the side of TikTok where everyone was sharing like their hospice experiences. Okay. And I got so intrigued because as a Christian, like there's so many things that people, share about the experience, like that they lift their hands or they have an experience for a minute where like it's almost like they come alive again. And then you get hope, like as a family member, like, oh my gosh, okay, maybe it's coming back. But then that subsides very quickly. And not that they hallucinate, but that they like start saying that they see things, and it could be like someone truly that was in heaven. And so you can be as broad, generic as you need to be, because I know some things are confidential, but just take us, maybe give us some insight. Like, what have you experienced in the 5 years that you will never forget? You've seen these things, or what do you look for? Just give us some things.
So the first time I experienced that was with my grandma.
Okay.
So she did the whole raised her hands. She wasn't saying anything, but she was raising her hands, and it was close. We knew that she was close. And my uncle said she's reaching for dad because my grandpa had passed away. And I didn't say anything because I'm like, could be. I don't know. I wasn't a hospice nurse then. I was a fairly new nurse. And my mom, she said, nope. She's reaching for her mom. Because her mom died when she was 12. And so we really think she saw her mom, and she was just like, there's my mom. It was just a really beautiful moment to really think that, you know, to lose your mom at 12 and then you finally get to see them again was a really powerful moment. And I think that's kind of what for us was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Because yeah, it's always hard to lose your grandma, but like you say, they've lived a good life. Like, it's time for them to go. So that was the first time I experienced anything like that. More recently, with a patient, so I was there. They had passed away, or they were close. They hadn't quite passed away. They were close, and the family had already called and like basically didn't want to be alone.
Okay.
So I went. I'm there, and I'm like, yeah, it's really close. I'm totally fine with hanging out. I can be wherever you want me to be. I can be in the living room. I can be here with them. I can be in my car, you know, because it's still a private moment. So like, even though they want me there, because I've had a couple of people want me to stay, and I never know, like, so I always give them options. Do you want me to be in another room? Do you want me to be in my car? Do you want me to be right here? You know, and it's different for everybody.
Sure.
So, you know, they just said, you know, well, how will we know? You know, I'm like, because they were kind of like, they didn't want me in the room, but then they were like, well, how will we know? And I'm like, well, he'll just essentially stop breathing. You'll know because you'll notice he's not breathing anymore.
Yeah.
So I was in another room, and they called for me to come in, and they think, you know, they said, I think that he's gone. So, you know, I listen, and of course there's no heartbeat. I don't know if this is true in Missouri still. I just have to point this out. So if you're a hospice nurse in Missouri still, because I'm not, I'm in Wisconsin. My first experience with nursing as a hospice nurse, I was at a patient's bed, and the hospice nurse says, you can go do whatever you need to do because I have to listen for 5 minutes. And I was like, what?
A long time.
Yeah, we do not. So I don't know if that's still a thing or not, but so we
okay,
just
if you're in Missouri and a hospice nurse, let us know.
Yeah, for sure. Because I always say that, like, in Missouri, they have to listen for. We do not. We basically just listen, you know, because there are like their heart rate slows down, and it could be like, you know, just so we listen for a little bit, but not 5 minutes.
Because essentially you have to pronounce them dead.
Yes. Okay. And that sometimes is really hard too, because since I work overnights, like if they call me at 11, say they've passed away, but I don't get there till after midnight, they've died on a different day. So I always kind of explain that process, and that's sometimes really hard for families. If it's really close to midnight, I'll say like 23:59 or whatever, just so it's not a different day.
Okay.
But if it's like 1:30, you know, like, because there's places I go, it'll take me 2 hours to get there. So, but yeah, my assessment of the patient has to be the official time of death. And so I always explain, like, just keep, when you notice they were gone, that can just be your own like personal memory, but it'll be a different time on the death certificate.
Okay.
However, so this family calls me into the room, says, you know, I think that they, I think dad's gone. And so I go in, I listen, I feel for a pulse. Sure enough, I said, okay, yeah, he has passed away. I give the official time, and we're all standing there in the room. and it's not springtime. It's like wintertime. There's snow on the ground, and we're all standing there, and a cardinal lands on the windowsill and pecks on the window. I kid you not. I cannot make this stuff. And so the family's like, "Oh my gosh, that's Dad telling us bye," and I lost it. I mean, there are times where I'm just like, keep it together. But there are times where it's not going to happen. I'm not going to keep it together.
Just warn
But
them.
it was truly a spiritual moment,
Okay.
and not a super religious family. Like, but
Okay.
they believed in the cardinal was a sign that Dad came to tell us bye.
Yeah. Can I add to that real quick? Because I
Yeah.
was telling you I had a friend, and we'll get into this too. But I have a friend whose dad was on hospice. They were at his house or their house. And I had told you they got the textbook and she read it from cover to cover. She's sharing this with me. And she was like, Shauna, I'm not kidding you. Like, it happened exactly like the book. And she was watching for those signs, and she knew, okay, this happened. And so I'm watching for this next, all of the signs, all the things happened. So she knew when to call the hospice nurse in, like it was clearly very, very close. And I think, and I won't say her name, but I'll ask her to be sure, but I think it was the very next day, but she was out on her front porch and she said, a cardinal landed right in front of me. And she said that's all I needed. Like, that gave me the hope, the reassurance, the closure. I kid you not. And I mean, we're just balling together as she's sharing this with me. And I thought, so if any of you have also had a cardinal experience, please tell us. Like, these are all the things I'm so interested in, because if you are into the spirit realm, if you believe that there is an afterlife and there's something after this, like, it just allows you to breathe and gives you hope that they're not suffering now, and I will see them again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned the book. I have one.
Okay.
We call it the Blue Book because everyone in hospice world knows what the Blue Book is. It is written by Barbara Carnes, who is like totally the epitome of hospice nursing. So she's been a hospice nurse, but also wrote lots of books. These are all of her books.
Okay. I never want to read them. No.
Right. But this one is called Gone From My Sight. And it literally does line out, like, when they experience this, they have like 2 to 3 months. When they do this, it's 2 to 3 weeks. When there's this, it's days to hours to days. A lot of hospice companies do hand this out to patients. We don't. I just have one for my own personal, like, my own. So if someone asks about it, I can talk about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of hospice companies, they do hand it out, and they literally call it the Blue Book. I've listened to an interview of Barbara Carnes, and she loves that it's called the Blue Book instead of Gone From My Sight. But it really does, like, line it all out. In, like, not all patients experience all of the symptoms, but they'll have one or two of the list of symptoms, and so like, when you come in and you're like, I think it's getting close or whatever, you're looking for, like, so they'll get blotchy skin, which is called mottling. And, it really is blotchy looking, which is just a decrease of blood flow. So the extremities experience it first, because the blood is going to the vital organs. It's no longer feeding the extremities. Changes in breathing, we see that, I call it guppy breathing, like it's, kind of like a fish out of water, so that's a big sign that they're getting close, because even giving them like morphine for respiratory distress won't necessarily help that effect, because it's nearing the end. Other things, I got to look at my notes here, because okay, so congestion. We call it congestion. Lay people call it the death rattle, which I hate hearing that, because it really is. That's what it is there. But what it is like, your throat muscles are so relaxed, you can't manage your secretions and your saliva anymore. So it just sits there in your throat, and when you're breathing, it just kind of makes that rattle sound.
And do they also like maybe keep their mouth open, like
Yep.
in that kind of a thing? Because I remember
Yep.
my grandma, like literally with a water sponge, we're just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So open mouth breathing, the death rattle, unresponsiveness, which is really, I think, one of the hardest things for families to deal with because they feel like they can no longer talk to them.
Yeah.
Talk away. Hearing is the last thing to go. Like I always tell families, like, keep talking. They want to hear your voice. That's a sense of security for them that my family's here with me while I'm making this journey. I always say, don't leave anything left unsaid. If there's something that you want to say, get it out. Say it. This is the time to say
Yeah,
it.
just spill it all. Mom, here's everything I did that you don't know about.
Right.
Oh,
And then, like I said, the big one is, telling them it's okay to go and I'm going to be okay. Because those are kind of what they're wanting to hear, that it's okay. Because when
remember
they're
my
in that
aunt.
in between, that's what they're fighting with. I want to go be
Yes.
with George, my husband, but I also want to be here with my kids,
Yeah.
so
I remember
that's a hard,
my aunt was telling my grandma I was like 16 maybe when my grandma passed. And my aunt's over there by her bed saying, like, Mom, it's okay. We're all here. You can go now. And me being, a 16-year-old, I'm like, shut up. No, I don't want my grandma to go,
I'm not ready.
But you're right. But I mean, you're right. Like, maybe they are waiting to hear that. And then I've heard some where it's like they're actually waiting. The 50-some-year-old that I was talking about, they were like, maybe he is waiting for you to leave the room before he leaves. I've heard that too.
Yeah. That happened with my grandma. My grandma always said, I don't want people sitting around me staring at me.
Mm.
And like she did not want an open casket. I don't want people looking at me. The family was pretty well just camped out at the bedside all the time. And she was at Boone Hospital. I worked at Boone Hospital at the same time. So I would go over on my lunch or whatever after work and just kind of peek in. And I finally told them, I'm like, she's waiting for you guys to leave. I was like,
Yeah.
remember, she always said she didn't want people sitting around staring at her. And so I was like, you all need your rest. You all just need to go home and just leave her be. She's being taken care of. She's in the hospital. She's fine.
Yep.
And my mom called me the next morning and said she died at like 5 a.m. I was like, see, I told you.
Yep. Isn't that crazy? That's wild.
Yeah. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they're waiting for, like, a patient I had this last week, like all the grandkids came, which were all younger because the patient she was like in her 60s. So all the grandkids were fairly young, and all the grandkids came and visited. They said she was fairly coherent when they were there. They were just loud and chaotic and crazy, which I'm sure she was like, I love it.
But I'm ready to go to heaven.
Yep. And they said grandkids left, and about 30 minutes later, she died.
Yes.
And so it's just sometimes it's that final thing that they need, whether it be people leave me alone or I need to see so-and-so. And there's a lot of truth to that, the way that happens, which is why I always ask, is there someone they could be waiting on? You know, because you just never know. Like, is there an estranged brother or child that should we call them? That's a touchy situation sometimes, but it's like, I've had family members that are just not getting along. And it's like, this is not the time.
Yeah.
The hardest patient I've ever had was an 8-year-old, and her parents were never married. It was they got pregnant young, but then they didn't marry, and they both had significant others. And the mom didn't like the dad's significant other. She was not allowed to be in the house. And so they were there, like, the child was close. I mean, she was getting close, and they're there and they're at the child's bedside and they're just bickering and bickering and bickering. And I was like, listen, this is your last moments. Do you really want to spend it bickering with each other about your own significant others, which doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Like, let them come. Were they a part of her life? Then let them come. Like, the child was living with her grandma because the parents just couldn't get along well enough to care for the child, basically.
But isn't that yet another testimony to your job? Like, every situation is so different. You just never know.
It is. And it's like, it's kind of one of them things where, like, do I say something or do I not? But it's
Yeah.
like, good God, like, this is your 8-year-old child. This is the last time you're going to get any moment with them at all. And you're spending it fighting with each other. Like, this is
Unreal.
not okay.
No,
Like,
I would
not
say
okay.
thank you,
Yeah. Yeah.
later on that you actually said
Right.
that.
Yeah. And then, the grandma, she was like, yeah, if you're just going to argue, then you need to get out of my house.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's just times where you don't, sometimes I just feel like, okay, it's my job to advocate for the patient, and this
Yeah.
is not good for her. So this is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's so true.
Um,
Kind of going back to, I've where like they're not coherent, but yet maybe they are because they're waiting on something.
mm-hmm.
I've read or heard a lot about your consciousness, and though you like physically may not be there anymore, like you're conscious. You know what's going on around you, which again is
Mm-hmm.
wild to me. Like maybe you're outside of your body, maybe you're not. Maybe we'll never know on this side of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But it's wild to think that they can still hear you. They are still there until they're not, until they have passed over. And God, I mean, that it just gives me chills. It gives me hope, but I also have so many questions.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is kind of a phenomenal thing to witness, when that, because like I say, I am always saying, like, hearing is the last to go. They can still hear you. Just keep talking. And so sometimes, you can just see in their face that sense of calm when their family members are talking to them. Like, they are comforted by the fact that I can hear you. I know you're here.
Yeah.
Versus, the saddest thing ever, I worked hospice during COVID, and family members not being able to be with their loved ones when they were dying. That was just gut-wrenching to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sitting with a patient who's dying, and I'm holding her hand because her family's outside the window. They can't come in. And, arguing with them, like, they're protecting themselves because they want to be with her. Like, I'm exposed to way worse things as a nurse, going in and out of facilities and in and out of the hospital than they are. Like, this is not okay.
No.
And so most facilities over time were like, okay, when time is near, we'll let the family in, but they can't leave the room. Okay, fine. They don't want to leave the room.
Right.
They're not going to go bebopping around seeing other people. So,
that is wild. I'm going to read something real quick that someone posted. Sally says, Dad loved bluebirds. The day after he passed, he had the biggest bluebird perch on my front porch. I walked out and it stayed there on the banister until I said, it's all good, Dad. I'll take care of everything.
Yeah.
I love it and I hate it.
I know. Like, it's a thing. Like, my mom loves flamingos, so I swear to God, when she dies, I'm going to see a flamingo.
Well, now that would be a miracle.
Only in Aruba, right?
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, that's your chance to go take a vacation, right?
Right.
Oh man. Okay, this is so good. This is a lot, and I know some of you it might be bringing up emotions and memories, and maybe like the bluebird, it's also bringing up memories that are just so good because I think it's just something that we cling to. We're all going to experience this. I don't know if you know this or not, but no one's winning this game of life. No one's getting out alive.
Right. Yeah.
And so, it is what it is. You get to choose how you live this life right now, and the memories that you make and the legacy that you live, but you're not getting out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you're going to end, but everyone's life is going to end eventually. And not everyone gets on hospice, sometimes car wreck, other things, but a lot of us experience the hospice situation. And Jess, we are blessed to have people like you on this earth because, wow, there's no way. There's no way
I could. I said that. I said it. I said, I'm never going to be a hospice nurse. And then here I am. And it is so rewarding. Like I said, in a weird way, it's so rewarding. Know that people are comfortable. They're in their own homes. We're keeping them from pain, and they get to pass with their family members surrounding them versus being in a sterile hospital room, So that part of it is so rewarding for me, knowing that I am making a difference in their end journey.
Boy, your purpose is shining bright, girl. Mm,
So yeah. And I said, sometimes I can't, keep it together.
yeah.
Um, and I will give this advice to your sister too. So I'm a nursing student and I experienced my first death when I'm working at the VA. And my preceptor, she comes to me, she's like, I know this is your first death. Do you want to experience the processing of the body, basically? And I was
Oh,
like,
boy.
yeah, I guess I need to know what to do. I don't know. And so I'm in there. She sends another person to help me. And this person is just like there for a paycheck, basically. She's like, we don't got to do all this stuff, because I'm like changing the sheets and putting a new gown on them, giving them a bath, all the things, because the family hasn't seen them yet.
Yeah.
Family is on their way to the hospital. And so, I looked at her and I'm like, if you don't want to help me, then I'll just do it myself. Like, this needs to be done. What if this were your dad or your husband? Would you want to come in here and have them smell like urine? No,
Mm,
because that's one thing that sometimes happens when they pass. They void, or, they mess themselves. That's just part of it. And
yeah.
so cleaning them up is part of the job. So anyway, I'm cleaning him up, and family comes, and I was like, she's told them, like, spend as much time as you need in there. And they were in there for an hour and a half. And this whole time I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did that bath. I'm so glad I put clean sheets on the bed, because they wouldn't have spent that hour and a half in there if he would have smelled. Like, I
Yeah.
just know it. Like, it would have been just disheartening for them to be like, oh, I really
Yeah.
want to spend time with him, but it smells so bad in here.
The last memory.
Yeah. And so afterwards, the family comes out, and they're crying, and I'm like, oh God, I'm going to cry, because it's
Hold it
my
together.
first death. I've never experienced it. And so I'm shedding some tears, and the family leaves, and I apologize to my preceptor. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I just couldn't keep myself together. And she's like, you know what? If you cry in front of the family, they know you care.
Yeah.
And I have never forgotten that.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I
And then,
cry a lot.
there again, I mean, I see someone cry and I cry. So
Yes. Yes.
I'd be right there
Absolutely.
with the family crying too. And you were saying my sister, same thing. She does get connected. Like you were saying, it's so hard not to build
Yeah.
relationships. And there are some that are in the NICU, and a lot of them are able to leave and get healthy. But some of those little babies are in the NICU for a long time.
Yeah.
And you do get connected to the family members. And that's one thing that she's talked about is especially when you are connected with them, you just sit there and cry together,
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
Well, and for sure when they get to go home,
Right.
it's a happy cry, but you're like, they're going home. I can't believe it.
Yes. Amen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
I
are
have a
on the other
coworker.
side.
Yeah.
Like,
I have a coworker that has twins, and they were premature, and they were in the NICU for 5 months. And I'm like, how on earth? And she's like, it was like, you go every day, you're the mom. But I'm like, oh, that would just be.
I know. It's life.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. It's crazy. So, Jess, clearly you as a hospice nurse need some self-care, because you see a lot, you deal with a lot. There's a heavy load on you spiritually, and I would say your soul gets really bogged down at times. Mine certainly
Yeah.
would. And so Miss Jess also, I said at the beginning, has a side business. I'll let her talk about that for just a quick second. But if you are a hospice nurse, or if you know somebody, obviously she gets you. She is you. And she's also created this super cool, it's a subscription box, but it's specific to hospice nurses to get something every month that also fills their soul, gives them some self-care, and just allows them to like breathe and chill and find something good in their home. And so, Jess, explain what your business is, what your subscription is, and if they know, if there's any hospice nurses watching this, or if you know of someone, please go give her business page a look.
So I created Blue Iris Angel Box for hospice nurses. I belong to many hospice boards on Facebook. And I just was seeing so much, like every other post is, I'm so burnt out, I'm leaving the field. I'm so burnt out, I need something different to do. And I hate that because I'm so passionate about it that I hate to see the burnout. And I know part of the reasons why there's burnout. Like when I said someone's carrying a caseload of 25, like that's a lot. That's a big caseload. Average for a case manager should be more like 12 to 14. And so when they're seeing 8 patients a day, they can't truly give that patient what they deserve, the care they deserve. You know, they're already thinking about, oh gosh, I got to be at such and such house at 1 o'clock and it's already 12:45, you know, and I have a 30-minute drive or whatever. So I hated seeing that burnout. But also, I always say we can't take care of others if we don't take care of ourselves. And so I decided I was going to create this self-care subscription box. So it's shipped out monthly. And I really put a lot of thought into what items I want in there as far as what would I want to take care of myself, you know, so not something that's just going to sit on a shelf and collect dust and, you know, so it's usable items, you know, so I sleep with a lavender scented eye mask. Even when I take a nap, I've got my lavender scented eye mask on there. So my first box has a lavender scented, it's called an eye pillow, but it's weighted. So you can put it in the freezer, you can heat it up. It's good for headaches, but the lavender scent is what I was really looking for because like, it's just heavenly. It just calms me. So, you know, and there's other things in the box, but I really think out what is something that they can use and that they would want to take care of themselves. Like I said, it's shipped out monthly, but I created it to try to alleviate the burnout because I feel like sometimes the burnout is because they don't have time to take care of themselves. Like I give you permission, take care of yourself. Some people feel like they're on 24/7, like they don't turn their phone off or they're always checking their email. And like my boss knows, like I am protective of my boundaries. If you try to call me or email me on a Wednesday and expect me to reply, it ain't going to happen because I'm not working on a Wednesday. And I encourage all hospice nurses, like protect your boundaries, have boundaries. Like there's no reason why, even when you have patients that you deeply care about, there's no reason why they should be calling you at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Like there's on-call people, there's an answering service or whatever your organization has. Like encourage them. Like you can call this number anytime. It might not be me, but someone will answer your question or someone will come see you. You know, that's why there's people like me, because I would hate for my case managers to see their patients all day long and then have to take call all night. Like, cause you don't sleep good when you're on call. Cause you know, what if my phone rings and I don't hear it or, you know, so I take pride in that I help my case managers not have to work extra. Like they work hard enough as it is. And I know that I could not do it. So this is my give back to them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but that's why I created this box is I really want to give back to my fellow coworkers. And that's everywhere. Like if you're a hospice nurse, you're my people, you're my coworker. We do the same thing. It might look different, but we care for the same patient population and it is heavy, heavy work.
Yeah.
And so I also have a little journaling group that I started because journaling has been a godsend for me. Sometimes I'll sit in my car when I get home and I just write it all out just because I don't want to take my grief that's not mine to begin with inside.
That's
good.
good.
I want to just get it out. Like I said, I had some very young patients recently that have really just knocked me down, you know, and so writing out all them feelings, getting it all out. Cause again, it's heaviness and it's grief, but it's not my grief.
Yes.
And I need to get rid of it.
Yes. So. Good. Amazing. So Blue, I put it here and I also put the link to her actual Facebook page. Hopefully that will work for you. But Blue Iris Angel Box, you can find her on Facebook that way. And Amber says, you are a true blessing, 1,000%.
Thank you.
And then here's Leslie. So her daughter worked in the hospice for 12 years. What you all go through takes a very amen, sister. Again, never say never, but I think I'll
Yeah.
stick right here just pressing shirts all day.
It's definitely a calling. And I mean, I have worked with people that it's not their calling, and I just am upfront with, like, if you don't feel it as a calling, you need to,
Yeah,
you're not gonna survive here, and you're not gonna do well. You're
good
not
point.
gonna be helpful to the patients, because you're gonna get resentful because you can't, you know. So it's
Like you were
definitely
saying
not for you.
with
What's
that
that?
nurse that was like, I don't need to clean them up or whatever, maybe you're not in the right
Yeah.
field if that's
Hmm.
your outlook.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Woo! Jess, this was seriously amazing. So, again, if you are a hospice nurse or if you know of one, share this out. And if you know of someone that's going through this experience, I think that it's something just that you can commiserate. Again, most of us are going to experience this in some regard. And when you're in the moment, sometimes you feel like you're all alone. Like no one's ever experienced this ever before. It's just me trying to figure it out on my own. And,
Yeah.
no one has had their dad die like this.
Mhm.
And it's just not true. There's
Yeah.
so many people with the bird story too. Like it gives you
Yeah.
hope. It makes you realize that this happens to more people than maybe you realize.
Yeah.
So be open
Well,
and honest about it.
yeah, it's the fear of the unknown. Like, if you've never experienced it, then you don't know. You don't know the resources. You don't know what's going to happen. You're scared to death of, oh gosh, I don't want to be by. Like, I had a patient call me the other day. Like, she was a nurse, but she was a pediatric nurse, and she's like, I know it's close and I'm by myself. Can you just come?
Oh, yeah.
So I went, and by the time I got there, like, her best friend was there, her sisters had arrived, and she's like, I'm so sorry you drove all this way. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Don't apologize. Like, this is what I do.
Yeah. And just
I'm
to
like,
know that,
I'm happy to sit for as long as you want. And
right.
so they're like, yeah, because we have some questions. And because she's like, I'm a nurse, but I'm pediatrics. I'm like, girl, you take those kids, because I don't want to manage.
Isn't that funny?
So
Me for something.
yeah. So people often apologize to me, especially because it's the middle of the night. I'm like, this is my time of day. Like, I'm not a morning person. Like, get me up at 2 a.m. I'm good to go.
That's crazy.
So,
all right. Well, Jess, I thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You hang on with me for just a second, okay?
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening. Share this out to anyone that might be interested in either learning more about Jess or that just might need some encouragement or reassurance that hospice is not the end, truly. Okay. God bless you guys. Thank you as always. And
Thank
we'll talk to you soon.